gals, I'm here today to do a library book haul. Now in my last video, which was a sort of update on my physical TBR and a haul of books I'd bought in the last couple of months, I mentioned that I'm really struggling to reduce my physical TBR because I'm absolutely obsessed with my library. So the issue I've run into is that I don't often go into the library and just browse. What I do is I look at my online library account, I'd say no less than 5 times a day, and look at what new books they've got in. I request lots of books that I would otherwise pre-order, but books that I'm like unsure if I will love, so I don't want to risk spending money on them. And also I just request books all the time. In my county in England it costs 60p to reserve a book that's in my library branch or like in a local library, and they just put it aside for me, and it's just been really easy during the whole COVID situation to just run in and grab the books I need rather than having to touch loads of other books. And also, yeah, it just means I can do it on like a lunch break at work when I don't have time to browse. But it's got out of hand. I currently have, I think, 18 books out from the library. I'm allowed a maximum of 20, and I've got 23 books on my reservation list, which are slowly starting to trickle in. So I need help prioritising library books. If you've read any of these, I'd love you to let me know whether you think they're worth me reading or whether you think I should just not bother with them and take them back. I'm going to start with the 2 that have to be given back by the 28th of this month, because these 2 are obviously the highest priority. They're the ones that other people are waiting on. The first one being The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. So I'm put off this one because obviously it's a very chunky book, but I'm also drawn to reading it before returning it because I think now that this is longlisted for the Women's Prize, it's going to be a really long wait list, and if I don't read it this time, I think I'll probably be in like 20th in the queue or something. So this is a dual timeline book, I believe, from 2 women's perspectives, which is something I really enjoy. One section is set in 1950. We follow a real woman, I think, who was a pilot. We follow her life, and then in closer to present day we follow a actress who is acting the story of her life. I've had amazing things about this. I feel like this could be the sort of book I would love and adore, but yeah, very big. So should I prioritise this in the next week or so and read it for the 28th? One that is lesser known but does still have a couple of people waiting for it is Everyone is Still Alive by Cathy. Rentzenbrink. I think this came out last year and I requested it at my library and I've just been waiting a while to get my copy. I read her memoir, The Last Act of Love, and enjoyed it, and thought, oh, as soon as she brings a novel out I definitely want to give this one a go. This is her first fiction book, I believe, and this is set in the summer in an English suburb, and we follow this group of neighbours, I think, who become sort of entangled in each other's lives, and I think there's lots of guilt and secrets, and I like that sort of gossipy feel, like The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon, but like from an adult perspective. I'm really into that. I read the first couple of pages of all of these books, and this was actually the one that I was drawn into the most, so I would really like to pick this one up, although I don't think I've had a single person on BookTube review it. So have you read this? Did you enjoy it? What were your thoughts? What else? And then these 2 are ones I feel like will probably be requested back quite soon, and they're both quite short, so I would like to think I will read these ones before they go back. The first one I requested, I think, in December, and again it's taken a while to get to me, and that is My Monticello by Jocelyn, Nicole, Johnson. I apologise if I've said this incorrectly. I'm clearly not American. I'm not quite sure how you say the name of, I think it's Thomas Jefferson's estate, house, and it was a slave plantation. And I thought this was a collection of short stories. I have absolutely no idea why I thought that, but I did. And then it arrived and I had a little look at the blurb to remind myself what the stories were about and realised that I was completely wrong. So this is set in Charlottesville, and we're following a group of people when there's these rolling blackouts and a group of white supremacists decide to attack. So a group of family, friends and strangers flee to hide from these white supremacists, and they actually go to hide on the plantation of Monticello. So yeah, completely different to what I was expecting, but that sounds like it could be an absolute just banger of a read, and a really quick one that I could read in a day. So again, haven't had anyone review it. Have you read it? What are your thoughts? This next one I have had a couple of people review. This has a completely different cover in the US, and I think I actually prefer the UK cover. So here's the US cover here, and this is the UK cover. I mean, that is Brown Girls by Daphne, Palasi, Andreades. I apologise, I should have checked how to say that author's name. This is the sort of book I think I will absolutely adore. This is told in the plural, so I think it's told from the voice of all these girls. And I think we're following 4 or 5 young brown girls who grew up in Queens, New York. And it says, here streets echo of many languages, subways rumble above dollar stores, and the briny scent of the ocean wafts in from Rockaway Beach. Here, girls like Nadira, Gabby, Naz, Trish, Angelique, and many others struggle to reconcile their immigrant background with the American culture they come of age in. Here they become friends for life, or so they vow. And I love books about girlhood and a sense of belonging and a sense of a place, so I think this will be another great one to speed through in a day. So those are the ones that I think I'll prioritise these 2, and I need to know whether you think I should prioritise these 2, especially The Great Circle, because like I said, it's longer. Then a couple that I would like to attempt to read this month because it is Readathon. The first one is Winter in Sokcho by Elisa Shua Dusapin, and this is actually translated from the French because this author is French Korean, and it's translated by Anissa Abbas Higgins. And I think this is set in South Korea, but right on the border between North and South Korea, at a hotel when an Englishman goes to stay there and a French Korean woman runs the receptionist, and it's about that experience. And this is, I think, going to be quite short and slice of life, and I have no idea what the writing style will be like. I've heard from a couple of people this is quite distant, which is something I'm not a massive fan of, but because it's from the library and it's short, I thought I would give it a go, so I will definitely attempt that this month. And another one is Almond by Won-pyung, I think that's how you say it, and this is translated from the Korean by Sandy Jusun Lee. I actually borrowed this quite a few months ago and read the first chapter and really liked it, and then I realised I had to take it back to the library the next day, so didn't finish it, so just have re-borrowed it, and will certainly try and read this one this month. I've heard lots of people rave about this. This is about a little boy who was born with a brain condition that makes it hard for him to feel emotions like fear or anger, and so we follow him through his young life as he experiences some quite horrific things, and we watch how he experiences these things with his condition. So I think this is supposed to be quite upsetting, but like I said, I've heard really good things about it. Then a couple that I was really pleased to see my library get hold of, and so far no one's requested these, but I feel like it could happen. So there's a few books I just never think to like see if my library has, because I just think it's quite unlikely. So this is why I like to look on the website at like the new purchases, because then you can just see these books and be like, oh, that's great, I've actually bought those ones. And so this first one I heard people talking about either last year or the year before on American BookTube, and I really liked the sound of it, but I didn't know it had been picked up in the UK. I think it has been picked up in the UK, but I just haven't heard the publisher promote it at all, and that is The Great Offshore Grounds by Vanessa Veselka. This is quite a big book, and the font's really small, like ridiculously small, so that's going to be a pain. It's around 420 pages. I'd just rather this book was over 500 pages but with regular size font, but there we go. This follows 2 sisters, which is something I always enjoy reading about, and when their father gets married, they're half sisters and they're sort of pulled together to meet at his wedding, and they find out that he's left them some money, but they have to go on a road trip to collect this money, and as that happens I think sort of secrets are revealed. And I think one of them works in Alaska as a fisher or something like that. I don't know, but I really like the sound of the environmental commentary in this, and the discussions about family sort of secrets and lies, and yeah, really good quotes on the front actually. Roxane Gay says it's magnificent, and on the back, Karen Russell, who wrote Swamplandia, which I loved, said it reminded me of what a great novel can do. So yeah, there's just loads of things about this one that is pulling me in, but the length and the font size is putting me off, so there's that. Another one which I again knew was published in the US but didn't realise had been picked up in the UK, and that is A River Called Time by Courttia Newland. This is a post-apocalyptic novel, I believe. It says the ark was built to save the lives of the many, but rapidly became a refuge for the elite. The entrance closed without warning. Years later, Marcus Denny is one of the select few granted entry. He carries with him a closely guarded secret, the ability of his spirit to leave his body and transcend into the known world. And yeah, this has become some sort of mystery once he gets into the ark. So yeah, and bizarrely there's a quote from Steve McQueen on the front, which says rich with passion and humanity. And yeah, I think Courttia Newland, let me double check, I feel like he might even be, he's written 9 books before. Oh okay, so he's a screenwriter and he wrote some of the episodes of Steve McQueen's BBC drama. I think he's British, it doesn't actually say here, but I'm pretty sure he is. but I haven't heard of his books before, so that one sounds good. Then I have these two I've actually had out for quite a few months and haven't been returning them because I still want to read them and no one else has requested them. One of them is Exit Management by Naomi Booth. I've heard quite a few people rave about this one. I think this could be a really sort of page-turning read. This is a bit of a, I guess, literary thriller, which isn't something I read a lot. When I do, I enjoy it. And I think this is about these two people who come together to, I think the male protagonist is caring for this man in his home, and then somehow this woman gets involved, and I think they start to take sort of liberties of this man in his home in some nefarious ways, and I think they sort of plot something to do with some sort of con. I think that's what I get from the way people have described it, but I've heard it can be quite dark, so there's that. And the next one is another sort of literary thriller. I enjoyed quite a few literary thriller type books last year, and so hence picking up Exit Management and also picking up this one to see if I can get a bit more into them. This one is The Underneath by Melanie Finn. Melanie Finn is published by $2 Radio in the US, and all of her books are beautifully published. This cover is so boring. This is the US cover. So if I enjoy this book enough to want my own copy, I'll definitely pick up that version and then pick up her other books from $2 Radio. I love the sound of this. I think Melanie Finn is a South African author, and this book is about a protagonist who grew up in South Africa and has this sort of traumatic past, and she's moved to a sort of isolated farmhouse in Vermont with her husband and her children, and he's called away on business, and when she's left there she starts to get the sense that the people who previously lived in the house, that something bad happened to them, and she feels really uncomfortable living there, and the locals won't talk to her about it. She becomes sort of enmeshed in the life of this local man, and things start to spiral, and it says on the back, this is a beautifully written thriller which is also a considered exploration of violence, both personal and national, and whether it can ever be justified, which I think sounds very intriguing. And I read the first couple of pages and really liked the writing style and felt very drawn in, so I just want to read all of these at once, and obviously I can't. And then I guess these next few I have are more sort of genre fiction. So I have one sort of, I'd say this sort of blurs the line between contemporary fiction and romance, and that is Don't You Forget About Me by Mhairi McFarlane. I recently read last night by this author, after hearing Claire recommend it. I will link a video above where Claire reads quite a few of this author's books in one reading vlog. And after seeing that vlog I was like, actually I want to pick up another one of her books because I read the whole thing and it was quite long in one evening, and when I had a look at what my library had and what they all sounded like, this is the one that intrigued me the most. So yeah, and her books just feel like really cosy, and whilst there is a romance, the one I read and from what I've heard from Claire, the romance isn't like centre stage, and there's a lot of discussions about the woman and her personal life and how she sort of wants to change things about her life, and also just about her relationships with her friends and family, as well as a romantic relationship. So there is that one. Then I saw this one and thought it looked absolutely beautiful. This is Jummy at the River School by Sabine Adeyinka. Isn't that a beautiful cover? And this is a middle grade novel about boarding school. It says that Jummy has earned a place at the River School, the finest girls' boarding school in Nigeria. Nothing can dampen her spirits, not even when she learns that her less fortunate best friend Caro won't be joining her. She absolutely loves the school and thinks it's wonderful, but then I think Caro sort of comes to visit, and it makes Jummy start to question the unfairness of the fact that she's able to go and her friend isn't. I don't know if this is the first in a series, but it just sounds super cute, and you know, we have so many books that came out historically and still come out now, middle grade books about sort of jolly hockey sticks and midnight feasts in boarding schools, and they're very, very white, and I think it's really cool to see a book finally that takes that narrative but places it in sort of anywhere other than England. So really looking forward to reading this one, hopefully on like one cosy Sunday afternoon. And the next one is a YA fantasy, and I borrowed this one in January because I tried it on audio and was enjoying the story, but just felt like I would prefer to read it physically, and that is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsah Faizal. I'm not going to really talk about this one much because this is a very popular first book in a YA fantasy duology, which I've heard loads of people rave about. When I was looking into a lot of YA fantasy, this one just sounded a bit less angsty and a bit more interesting in terms of the world it was set in and the magic system, and I really got that from the first few chapters. So again, I'd like to get to this soon, but really small font again, like, and this is quite uncommon for YA, really small font, so that's put me off a little bit, I'm gonna be honest. The one I'm currently reading, which does not have small font and is very well spaced and easy to read, is Amaranth by E.R. Trainer. This is translated from the Italian by Marinella Mezzanotte, I think. I saw this on my library's list of books they'd purchased. I'd never heard of it. I had a look, it's got one review on Goodreads. I could barely find it anywhere, and I was like, it's so odd that my library have like picked up this really niche book. And then I read about the author, and she is Italian, but she came to study at UEA, which is the university I work at in Norwich. And she studied here, I think she studied creative writing. The creative writing course here at UEA is quite well known, so quite a lot of famous authors studied at UEA. And also I think she trained as a librarian and worked in our library or volunteered there, so I think the staff there probably know her, which is really cool, so hence why they ordered her book. And I am 100 pages into this. This is like a really cosy, it feels quite classical fantasy in that the narrative's quite straightforward. Basically it's we're following a young girl whose mother has just passed away and she loses her voice, but she has the ability to sort of tell people what she's thinking just through her mind. And because of that, the sort of high priestess and advisor to the king whisks her away to try and resolve this. So it's sort of a quest narrative very quickly, but it just feels super cosy, like we're told all about the little inns they stop at and the friends she makes along the way. This is a sort of Mediterranean inspired fantasy, which isn't something I think I've read before, so I'm really enjoying that. My neighbour. And also the author is a musician, so they have wrote and produced music to go with this book, and there's little markings at the top of a page when you're supposed to listen to a song that goes with it, so that's been really cool to experience. And then lastly, and I don't know whether this is a bad idea or not, I have borrowed The Way of Kings, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, and they're split into 2 books because it's over 1,000 pages, but it is one novel. Now I've previously read this, and when it first came out years ago, and I remember thinking it was like an interesting start to a series, but I didn't feel like enamoured with it. And I think it's told from 3 perspectives, but for some reason I only remember one distinctly. If you're intrigued, the one I remember is the one where I think he is like treated as a slave and he has to work in like these tunnels or these ditches, and I remember there being like a really long plot to do with that, which is quite interesting, which I won't spoil. And I heard that this is going to be a 12-book series, which is why I didn't carry on, because I hate reading a fantasy book, waiting a year, and I thought, do you know what, if I'm ever interested, I'll wait till all 12 come out in 12 years' time and then read them. But I recently heard that he said, oh, actually, they're going to be sort of 3 distinct series within this world, and the first series will be completed early next year. And so there's a readathon going on where you get a month or 2 to read each book, and then there's going to be a live show. I think the first live show is going to be this month. I will leave the details of this up here somewhere so you can go find out. So part of me is like, I don't really love his writing style, am I bothered? And another part of me has been really enjoying reading fantasy lately, likes the idea of being involved in like this big read along with live shows, and is tempted. But of course this will take up loads of my time because it's 1,200 pages. So if you've read further than the first book, I'd love to know whether you think it gets better after the first book and whether you think it's worth carrying on. So yeah, those are all the books. I would love to know which ones you think I should prioritise, which ones you think I should maybe take back without reading. Like I said, at the moment I have a few other books out actually that I've already DNF'd that I need to take back, and I talk about my DNFs every month over on my Patreon, which is always linked below in case you're interested. So I think I'm going to have quite a long list of DNF'd books this month because I've already DNF'd 3, we're not very far into the month. So I need to take those back so other people can borrow them. I've already got a few books waiting for me to pick up, and then like I said, I've got like 22, 23 others that are going to start trickling in, so it's getting very out of hand, to be honest. So yeah, I'd appreciate your help with this. So yeah, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!